The S&P 500 is at an all-time high, and when everything looks expensive, finding a real opportunity gets a lot harder. But there's one sector that's been going in the opposite direction. While the rest of the market has been climbing, this sector has been quietly falling. And that's exactly the kind of situation that gets my attention. To find it, I used a sector map inside Forecaster, today's sponsor. It shows the performance of every market sector across different time frames, which makes spotting these kinds of situations much faster. Here's what the data shows. Over the last 3 years, the market was mostly driven by communication services and technology. Year to date, it's been energy and basic materials. But when you flip it and look at the worst performers, two sectors stand out: healthcare and financial services. And in the last 6 months, financial services is the one sector that's been negative. So we have a market at record highs and one sector that is actually going down. For a contrarian investor, that's worth a closer look. Now, the sector has over 800 companies from more than 40 countries. So let's narrow it down to the 30 largest companies and sort them by worst performing in the last year. We are not looking for the stocks that already went up. We are looking for potential contrarian bets. And we start with S&P Global. This company has been around for over 160 years, and in that time it has become the infrastructure of global finance. $1,000 invested in this company 10 years ago would be worth around $4,396 today. That's a gain of 339%. Very solid and very consistent. The stock has one notable correction, a roughly 30% drop in 2022. Investors is the weakest category for S&P Global. Individual insiders own just 0.1% of the company, but two elite investors have meaningful positions: Chris Hahn and Dev Kantesaria. For a company this well known and this well run, this is a surprisingly small amount of smart money interest. Return on invested capital is a very nice 22%. Net profit margin over 5 years is 29%. Both of those are great numbers. Now, there is one thing that looks strange here. Share count is actually 26.2% compared to 5 years ago. Normally, that would be a red flag, but this number has a very specific explanation. The acquisition of IHS Markit in 2022, when S&P Global issued a large number of new shares to complete the deal. Before that acquisition, they have been consistently buying shares back, and since the deal closed, the buyback program has resumed. The acquisition also pushed the net debt from essentially zero in 2021 to over 10 billion. But with their free cash flow generation, the debt payback period is 2.9 years. That is manageable. Revenue has grown at 12.1% per year for the last decade. But the most impressive number here is free cash flow growth, 38.1% annually. That is exceptional. Earnings per share have grown at 13.3%. Dividend yield is 0.9%, so not a high income play, but the payout ratio is only 26.2%, which means the dividend is very safe. And it has grown every single year without interruption, currently at 7% annual growth. The PE ratio is about 30. This is not cheap on the surface, but when we run the DCF analysis, the picture gets more interesting. Using 3 different growth scenarios based on the company's own historical growth, the industry average, and analyst consensus, the average intrinsic value with a 30% margin of safety comes out to $539. The current price is $439. That implies a potential upside of 22.9%. Now, the conservative scenario based on industry average growth puts the fair value lower at $257. So this is not a screaming bargain, and you need to believe in above average growth to justify the current price. And is it probable? Well, let's go to Forecaster and find out more. Let's open the AI agent and future expectations. We can read here that investors currently expect S&P Global to deliver steady above average growth over the next 12 to 24 months, with earnings rising in the low to mid-teens per year and strong cash generation supported by its rating data and index businesses. So the analyst consensus scenario seems possible, and if so, this company looks pretty nicely priced. Berkshire Hathaway is one of those companies that almost needs no introduction. Berkshire has had a very strong decade. The 10-year total return is 253%. Individual insiders own 14% of the company, and we all know who the primary insider is. 4 elite investors are also on board: Bruce Berkowitz, Chuck Akre, Guy Spear, and Lee Lu. Return on invested capital comes in at 6%, which is below our 10% threshold. But Berkshire is a special case. It is not a typical operating company. It is an insurance-based conglomerate holding hundreds of billions in investments. Measuring return on invested capital the traditional way here is a bit like scoring a fish on how well it can climb a tree. What I find more telling is the share buyback story. Shares outstanding has been consistently declining from around 2.47 billion in 2017 to around 2.16 billion today. Management is quietly returning capital. One more thing worth mentioning. Earnings per share at Berkshire is extremely volatile. In 2022, it was negative, minus $10.33 per share. In 2023, it bounced back to $44.28. These swings are not a sign of business problems. They are a result of accounting rules that require unrealized investment gains and losses to flow through the income statement. In a portfolio the size of Berkshire's, that creates massive noise in the reported numbers. Revenue growth is 7.4%, free cash flow growth 5%, earnings per share growth 12.3% over the decade. The numbers are respectable, but not exciting, especially for a company of this quality and reputation. Now, the valuation, and here is where it gets uncomfortable. The current price is $470. When we run the DCF across 3 scenarios using historical company growth, industry average growth, and analyst consensus, the average intrinsic value with a 30% margin of safety comes out to $240. The stock is trading 48.9% above the average fair value. All 3 scenarios point to the same conclusion. At the current price, the model says Berkshire is significantly overvalued. But since it is a conglomerate with a very complicated mixture of private and publicly traded companies in a lot of sectors, DCF is probably not the best way to value it. So let's go to Forecaster and see their valuation. We have here 4 fair value calculations. Discounted cash flow at $323, Peter Lynch model at $422, economic value added at $560 and EV to sales at $447. And we can see that the average fair value is at $438, so lower than the current price. There is only one valuation that suggests that Berkshire is undervalued, and it is really high at $560. So if we believe it is way too optimistic, we can exclude it, and then the fair value falls below $400. So almost all the valuations here are similar to our calculations, but without the 30% margin of safety. All in all, Berkshire is a great business that should probably be treated more like an investment fund than a company. HDFC Bank is one of India's largest private banks. Founded in 1994, it has grown into a financial institution serving hundreds of millions of customers. But when you look at the stock chart over the last 5 years, it does not look anything like a large, successful bank. The return on invested capital shows 0% in our scoring system, not because the business is unprofitable, but because the standard return on invested capital calculation does not translate well to banks. The net profit margin of 37.9% tells a very different story about the actual profitability of this business. The bigger concern is share dilution. Share count has gone up 38.7% in 5 years, largely driven by the massive merger with HDFC Limited in 2023. That merger also pushed net debt from under 10 billion to over 60 billion almost overnight. It fundamentally changed the size of this company, which makes pre-2023 comparison less meaningful. Growth is where the story changes completely. Revenue growth over 10 years, 18.7%. Free cash flow growth, 23.5%. Earnings per share growth, 12.5%. A steady climb from around $1 in 2015 to $3.20 today. The current price is $25. Our free scenario DCF produces a very wide range, from $12 on the conservative end to $41 on the optimistic side. The average fair value with a 30% margin of safety lands at $25, which means the current price is almost exactly at fair value, a gap of just 0.4%. So the question for HDFC Bank is not whether the price is right. The question is whether you believe in the long-term growth story of Indian banking. If you do, this might be an interesting entry point. If not, there are more obvious opportunities on this list. And if you would like to check out other sectors like technology, real estate, or energy, compare how they performed over months or decades, sort all the companies in them and filter them by countries, and do so much more with the help of a really useful AI assistant, then go to Forecaster and use code BOLD10 to get 10% off. It's definitely worth it.